It is 7 p.m, everybody. It is 7 p.m, so we will start. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of Burnside Council on October the 26th, 2021, starting at 7 p.m. We are still seated according to COVID restrictions in the chamber, but you are welcome to join us here in the foyer to observe and for public question time. Welcome also to those watching from home. You notice, of course, we're still wearing masks except when we speak, and if you are to attend the meeting, currently masks must be worn in the gallery. Please stand for the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We also pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. Finally, we seek understanding and guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. In the case of an emergency, an alarm will sound and then please follow directions from staff. I remind you that all council meetings are live streamed through the council's website and a copy of the agenda is available by downloading from this website. Members, please raise your hand to indicate when you wish to speak and use your microphones when speaking and turn them off when you're finished. Please also turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent during the meeting. A reminder of the 3-minute speaking time and two questions at a time. To everyone present in the chamber and in the foyer, please be respectful of each other and their opinions during these debates and not interrupt the person debating or talk while they are speaking. It's important that all views of the elected members are heard before any decisions are made. I also want to make a note. At our last meeting, there were a number of comments made and words used at different times during the meeting that should have been more wisely considered prior to using them. Please consider the impact of that your words have on individuals personally, whether they be elected members or staff present, and the wider community. Right, we have moved to absences. I have received no apologies. There are no leave of absence. Declaration of interest, reminder. Is there anyone who wishes to declare an interest? No. Confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover. Thank you, Councillor Piggott. Seconded by Councillor Turnbull. All those in favour? Carried. Against carried, I should have said, but they all went up. We have one item of adjourned business which we agreed that we would deal with first this evening, and that is the item 9.1, motion on notice public art policy, and it was Councillor Davey.
Can I just ask a question on that? I'm happy for that too, but my understanding was that we agreed that when we adjourn things it would slot back into their normal
No, the agreement
spots.
was definitely that this was going to be the first item on the agenda.
Was that just from last meeting?
From the last meeting,
okay, sure.
Specifically only from the last meeting.
Okay. But in general it just slots in, right?
Yeah. I'm talking specifically about tonight and this particular motion.
Okay.
Right. So, Councillor Davey, it's over to you.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll read the motion first before I start to get timed. And my motion is that Council considers that high-quality public art enriches the city, making it a more attractive place to live, work and visit, and reflects city pride and the cultural diversity of our city. Requests that a report be brought to Council by the end of January 2022, which refers to the Arts and Public Culture Plan South Australia 2019-2024, our Kaurna heritage, and any other local government guidelines and bodies, and includes 1, a draft City of Burnside public art policy, recommendations for funding allocation in the annual budget, possibly with establishment of a reserve fund. Actually, I'll change that to recommendations for a possible funding allocation. And 2.3, recommendations for acquisitions of artworks, preservation of existing works, recognition of Ghana art, consideration of grants, capacity to support local and South Australian artists, how artworks could be incorporated into capital project works, and any other relevant matters. So we heard a deputation on this matter last week from Dr. Chadwick, and I'll move on to say that I've taken the initiative to move that we develop this policy because I believe we need a system and some guiding principles for managing, purchasing or commissioning public art in our sophisticated and increasingly culturally diverse community. We have a long history of acquiring very traditional artworks such as paintings, memorials, sculptures, a mural, which is on the depot wall, and these beautify our buildings and open spaces and also reinforce and recognise our heritage. We invest in a public art fund which has funded some small projects. We have a fantastic arts centre at Pepper Street which fosters local artists, holds exhibitions and classes and is a great community meeting place. I think we need to produce a public arts policy to embrace our Ghana heritage and increasingly culturally diverse community, as many of our surrounding metropolitan councils have done, and as was highlighted in the deputation to council by Dr. Chadwick. It makes good business sense for our cultural health and is a doorway to creativity. There are also opportunities to expand our arts appreciation, to consider perhaps literary performances, digital and spoken word arts, and some of these may already be happening, but we need to explore new ways of looking at art, or to focus on more traditional artworks, murals and sculpture. There are many sophisticated arts policies in place in our neighbouring councils, such as Adelaide City Council, Walkerville, Norwood, Payneham and St Peters, and I think at Unley. So I'm happy that if we work out with our community where we want to focus our future artworks and activities, provide opportunities for artistic excellence and quality, and facilitate this in a systematic way, so we can decide what funding we need to allocate and provide for this. So this is to start the process and to give it focus. So hopefully this can be done in consultation with the community and certainly the elected body, and I think in terms of good governance, this will help us focus our arts policy. We did have an arts policy which was part of our heritage, arts and recreation policy prior to last year, and we've moved that that was resolved and revoked, and we've now got a heritage policy produced which we're considering later in the meeting, but we don't have an arts policy, and I think this is an opportunity now to focus our efforts, look at, do we want to do some big public artworks, like the one that I love is the Norwood Council one at the corner of Kensington Road and Prescott Terrace, or do we want to look at diversifying our cultural art at the moment? So hopefully you'll support this.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Councillor Hubel, you indicated you wanted to second it. Did you want to speak first, CEO?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I just wonder if Councillor Davey would be prepared to amend it to February 2022. I've just been talking to the officers and we feel that if you were willing to provide us with slightly longer, we'd be able to produce a much higher quality report for you.
Thank you, Worship. Nina Marnie, greet you all this evening. Look, I'm really very happy that this is coming through the chamber, and I'm very, very happy to be seconding. Look, yeah, City Burnside is becoming a bit of a, hotspot and a haven for, art. Look, we've got AXA, Australian Central School of Art, recognises, the best tertiary art qualification institution in Australia. Look, we have, fringe, sala events that's coming into the city. We're looking at activating the Regal a little bit more for that sort of thing. Performing arts is obviously one part of it. But look, public art, you know, we've seen art pieces, you know, being, you know, centrepieces for our parks and reserves. I mean, we see Constable Hyde, there's a blue-tongued lizard there. The cover of our latest Focus is is it a crane? What sort of bird is it? Anyway, from the new, hopefully new Kensington Wamabukunga playground in Kensington Gardens Reserve. And look, public art, you know, I think it's really important. I think it brings people together, provides focal points for the community. You know, I think that art, creating art, consuming art is one of the core human experiences. We even look around this room this evening. I mean, obviously we've got our monarch here, but I mean, we look at the plasterwork here. We create aesthetically pleasing things as human. It's a human condition to embrace the aesthetic and communicate and express through the artistic form. And I think, you know, this policy, if you know, we hopefully get to realising it, this policy gives us a roadmap for conceptualising this in a logical, structured way. So I commend this motion and hope to see it through.
Councillor Lemon.
Thank you. I'm very pleased that it's been extended to February, because I think it would be lovely if we had a workshop on this, and I'll tell you why. I think I totally support art for public places. I totally support this motion, but I totally support what Dr. Chadwick said at our last meeting. But there are some things that aren't captured in this motion, and I think for a policy we need to look at things like, if the Eastwood Primary School makes some tiles that get stuck to Stobie poles, is that public art? There are some discerning things that need to happen. If somebody knits a sleeve for a street tree, is that art? It would be if Sarah did it, but you know, if somebody paints a Stobie pole, is that art? And for me, it isn't. These are crafty things that happen in areas, in pockets, but it isn't actually art for public places. This motion looks at a bigger issue than that. The other thing that I don't think, and I'm hoping administration might look at this when they do a report, and I'm hoping that the end of February is enough, because I actually think that this is going to be quite a big policy, and it needs to sit there in our strategic plan, so you need to find where it's going to fit in that as well. But I know politicians borrow paintings from the art gallery, and they do that for their offices in both Parliament and in their electoral offices. I'd like to investigate. A lot of what the art gallery's got is in storage, and some of it may well be very, very fine pieces of sculpture and other things. I'd like us also to investigate the potential to borrow on a 10-year loan some of the stuff that might be in our art gallery that wouldn't be seen by people unless it was in fact brought to public view in some other place, because the art gallery is very highly curated, and I think we should in fact see as much of its collection as we can. So these are the things that I feel are important for this policy, and I guess at the end of that I'd ask the question, would administration look at those issues? Should we, and does administration think a workshop on what is art and what isn't useful before you finalise your report? And should I in fact then just do a little fiddling around with an amendment? I guess is what I'm asking you as well. That was a preamble, but I take it as though I've spoken.
Through Madam Mayor, I think the policy itself would explore many of those earlier issues you raised about what is art and what in the City of Burnside context. Certainly happy to have a workshop as part of the process as in we'd end up have the elected members assisting the formulation of the policy before it came back. Mr Cant's just informed me no workshop spaces available until next year. We may need to extend the return report to council if we also need to do a workshop. I mean, we're in council's hands. I'm sure council is probably amenable if we do run a workshop and it comes back slightly later than February. I'm assuming council will be okay, but I'm happy to work with that.
Sorry, Councillor Hedge.
Thank you, Mayor. The question I have is, in the motion, it refers to any other relevant matters and any other local government guidelines and bodies. My question is, would the administration regard the Adelaide Central School of Art, any other arts organisations like Arts SA that lends artwork out, as being included in this any other part of the motion?
Through Madam Mayor, I think the wording of 2.4 allows us a great deal of latitude to search far and wide to glean as much information as we can from people that have gone before us to help inform our policy. So I don't think we need to specifically mention bodies. I'm comfortable that our efforts will pursue all those avenues.
Right, thank you, because I'd like to quickly speak that I'd like to see the outcomes from a policy actually contribute to the goals that have already been identified by the community in the city of Burnside, the goals on connected community, the goals on heritage, etc., the goals on environment. And art and any other cultural activity that we develop in the city of Burnside go towards achieving those goals that we've set out in our strategy. I've done some research today with organisations involved in cultural development and arts development, and I was made aware that the United Cities and Local Government Organisation endorsed in 2019 frameworks about cultural development, and arts are very much part of this broad cultural development strategy. So we don't have a cultural development strategy. We have a strategy for our council. We have policies, and we have this arts policy. So I'm grateful to see that. But I'd like to see it broadened out to a cultural development strategy next, and or at least that aspect considered, because it's a very good way to ensure that everything we do, from the grants we give to the mums and dads and children and other organisations, all add up to achieving our goals. And art is one activity in that overall cultural development lens. I'm doing a Bachelor of Visual Arts actually at the Adelaide Central School of Art. I'm halfway through. I would never imagine what that field is like until I've been studying contemporary art at that school. Of course, I drew and painted ever since I was a child, but this is a completely different field, and the contemporary arts field today is just absolutely amazing. So I do thank Councillor Davey and the Deputy for this, and Seconder, and that we keep an open mind with our arts in this city. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, I'm going back to Councillor Davey.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thank you everyone for your input and support. As we all, most seemingly all acknowledge, public art is very important, and involvement in it in all its forms, which are myriad, so it's how long's a piece of string, helps our cultural development, as we've heard, our mental and physical well-being, and us as a community. So I see this as an opportunity to focus all these energies and activities, from our funding for supporting Pepper Street to to determine, do we want Stobie pole art considered as an art form? Do we want public artworks, major public artworks? Do we want to consider funding those? Do we want to consider performing arts and supporting that? So it's a matter of focusing all of these energies which are around, and I'm very happy that we workshop this. I think that's a great idea, so that we can determine what we think is appropriate as representatives of the community, and that will then allow us to focus our approach, develop an appropriate policy, and then fund it accordingly when it comes to the budget. Determine what sort of funding we want and what's reasonable, and finalise our policy. So if that happens in March, that'd be fine, so be it. Hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Right, those who support the motion, please raise your hand. Against? Carried. Now we move to 11.1. Which, you want to explain? Sure. Yeah, good idea. Okay.
Through Madam Mayor, as I've circulated to elected members early today, I've made the decision to pull 11.1 in the interest of providing council with a great deal more information to make a fully informed decision on the matter. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, I shall now go through the remainder of the items from 11.2 through to 11.1.
Yes, I wish to move the motion in line with the recommendation. You'll note that we've got a point. I mean, this is a very positive thing to do. We've done a number of things in this area, and we should do more. Continue to do them, I should say. Renaming Kensington Gardens to, or co-naming Kensington Gardens Reserve Kensington Wama, I think is the right thing to do. The consultation was limited. You had 14 people. I guess the expected number of those, a small number, but felt that it wasn't an important area to put council's resources. But I don't think that's the general view of the population. And so from that point of view, I feel it is absolutely the right way to go, and I think we should do it tonight. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Lemon.
Thank you. I think this is a great idea. I think it's high time. I was heartened by the positive responses in the community consultation, albeit that they were very few. I was very disappointed by that one person that said stick to rates, rights and rubbish. And I sometimes think we need to actually just have a workshop for those people to let them know the other things that we do that just go under the radar but make Burnside a beautiful place. But this is excellent and I'm really happy to support it. Thank you, Mr. Cant, for such a wonderfully written report.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Right. Councillor Pickett, you have a question?
This is unusual. I do have a question, and I'm most remiss not to have asked it earlier, but one of the consultations suggested that it should be named the other way around, that the Kensington Wama should go first. Now, and my question is that something that, given we've gone out in that order and we've done the consultation and stuff, we're sort of locked in? So not only am I late tonight to the question, I'm late last time we spoke about this to the question. I just want to know whether it's something that is possible to be debated and perhaps...
It's an interesting question because all around the city parklands it's the Indigenous word first, followed by the in English. So if whatever we do, we ought to be sticking to be consistent across the board.
So perhaps there's a question, is there a policy, it's not the first time we've done this, is there a policy of which direction we do it?
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Mr. Cant. Through the Mayor, sorry. The policy position is silent with respect to co-naming and the order of which these names are presented first. However, I would say that this is intended as a co-name, so it could be called either at any particular time. We have consulted directly with the relevant group, with the Ghana, and they have approved the way that we've presented it to Council. That doesn't mean that Council cannot change the order to do that if they so choose.
You have a subsequent question?
Yes, well, I do want to process perhaps, given that I'm the mover of the motion in that order. I sort of feel this should be debated, and chronologically it should be the other way around. I'm interested, I hadn't also done that. It was to check what the perhaps norm was around. So I would like the opportunity within this forum perhaps to debate that, and I'm not sure how I do that given I've just moved it the other direction. Can I make an amendment on my own motion?
Councillor Huber wishes to speak, so I'll give you thinking time.
I'd like to move an amendment, if I could, which is to switch around, I think it's probably a good way of debating it, switching around Kensington Wama and Kensington Gardens Reserve, just reversing the order.
Continue to speak to it?
Yeah, I will speak to it briefly. Look, this is one of those areas that is new ground, and we guess there's a bit of questioning around the room as a whole as to which way should we do it or which way is proper. We're in a position to make that decision for ourselves. Look, I'm not suggesting a strong precedent, but Laurel Avenue Nursery site, which is co-named just recently, that is Laurel Avenue Pekernawirra / Peter Bannock Organic Garden. So certainly when we've done it very recently, a co-naming, we have gone with the Indigenous name first. And look, in that blend of I guess Ghana and English words, that is supplied to us by Ghana Warra Karapanthy, the Ghana language department that we actually go to consult with. So Kensington Wama is given to us, just as Laurel Avenue Pekernawirra was given to us. Look, I think the import of putting the Ghana name first should not be overlooked. I think we are I guess in a lot of people's eyes, the public's eyes, are proposing an alternative name, quote unquote, alternative name, as opposed to what we are doing, which is renaming Kensington Gardens Reserve as Kensington Wama / Kensington Gardens Reserve. We're not just adding on the extra bit, we are actually completely renaming, even though part of the new name was the old name. And I think that act of co-naming, not just tacking on, is an important distinction to make. So I guess in terms of what we want to represent and communicate, we are recognising, yes, chronologically, you know, Kaurna language was here before the English language, so that works. But we're doing this to highlight, you know, the importance of Kaurna history in the city of Burnside, and I pretty strongly feel that the Kaurna name should come first. So we wanted to debate it. Here we go. We'll see how this amendment pans out.
Councillor Lemon, you had your hand up.
I'm not averse to this, but I often find my way around the world with Google, and I'm just wondering if people put in Kensington Wama, are they going to find it? And that if they don't put in Kensington Gardens Reserve, which they will, actually, I've in fact found Kensington Gardens Reserve on Google when I thought I was lost. So I just want to make sure that if we do this and people just start using that first bit, are they going to find it in the way we're all used to finding places nowadays?
Through me, Mayor, I'm reasonably certain we'll register in geographical place names, but I'll get Mr. Cant. Oh, that's correct. Yes, so it will be registered in geographical place names.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Hughes? You're seconding the motion? The amendment to the motion, sorry. All right. You don't wish to speak? No? Okay. Councillor Cornish?
Just a question if I can. With the places we've previously co-named, have we got the signage done for those that might have English first? If this is the new process?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just refer that to Mr. Cant.
Through the Mayor, the other one we've done recently, which has been signed, has been Laurel Avenue, and my understanding is the Laurel Avenue Bickernawarra is first / Peter Bennett.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Henschke, did I see a hand around there as well? No?
Thank you, Mayor. Question, we have consulted with the Kaurna representatives? Yes, and they were happy with the name being second in the order?
All right, Mr. Cant.
So through Madam Mayor, I think Mr. Cant can answer the question again, but he's already given.
Through your worship, I did give the answer earlier on, and
yes,
they were comfortable with it. However, I've rechecked exactly what's been approved, and what's been approved is the use of the Kaurna name, not specifically the order. So just the use of the name provided.
So a question, the South Parklands, for example, the order is Victoria Park / Puckapananthi. There's variation. The Mayor's just made me aware. So the Adelaide City Council has a certain approach with naming that we are following, perhaps, or?
I walk around the East and South Parklands and I generally see the Indigenous name first and then followed by. But, you know, as long as, my perspective is, as long as we are not upsetting the Kaurna people, and we've had agreement from the Kaurna people to the naming, the co-naming, and they're not particularly perturbed, I'm not as fussed, but I do consider that the comments that made by Councillor Hubel, they were here first, are worth considering. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Realising, of course, we have to move the amendment first. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Beth. Will the services like police, ambulance, fire brigade, etc., be made aware of all this?
Through Madam Mayor, once the location is registered in the Geographical Place Names database, that data is accessible by all emergency services. So the answer is yes.
But it will always be double named anyway, so that should not be a problem. Anyone else wish to speak? Then I will put the amendment. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. So the amendment becomes the motion. And who's speaking next? And I wondered if there's anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter. No? Right, then I will go back to, we didn't actually have a seconder for that. Well, we had a seconder, but the person didn't speak on the first motion. You're happy not to speak? All right. So Councillor Piggott, back to you.
Oh yeah, not much to add. Thank you to Councillor Hubel, quite appropriately, I think, being the person raising that amendment. And thank you for the person in the consultation to raise it. I apologise not getting to it earlier and doing it before the motion, but I think we've landed in the right space there. I think it is the right order. It's the right thing to do first, and it's definitely the right order. So appreciate your support.
Right, those in favour? We now move on to 11.3, and 11.3 is Councillor Davey.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, I move in accordance with the recommendation, and I pulled this to acknowledge all the work that's been done on this to upgrade the policy by the staff and by the Heritage Reference Group. It's a pleasure to me and I think at this time, having just discussed the issue in Kensington Gardens Reserve, it's a great pleasure that we're learning so much about our Ghana history and heritage. So I think this really reinforces that and how we can maintain and promote it. So I think it's a great policy, and I'm happy to move that we accept it. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Henschke, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. It's great to see that the policy now includes gardens, and our city is rich in heritage gardens, and I do hope all our activities encourage people to preserve their heritage gardens and take cuttings perhaps of their heritage fruit trees and graft them onto new fruit trees, and gather the seeds of plants that can't find in the local nursery anymore. So that's a great thing, and we have the Atunga Gardens, the marvellous heritage gardens there, palm trees collected there, which is just absolutely magnificent. And I do hope that this will certainly be accepted by you all. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, I just want to also commend the work that's been done by the staff. Being a member of that Heritage Reference Group, I really appreciate, and on behalf of the Reference Group, certainly would like to say thank you for all the work that's put this policy now in place. Now I'll go back to Councillor Davis. Happy for me to move it? All right, those in favour? Those against? Carried. 11.3 is Councillor Lemon.
Thank you. I move the officer's recommendation. One of the reasons I pulled this out is that I wanted the Chamber to look at what we've achieved. It seemed like only a few meetings ago that we decided to go carbon neutral. And then when you look at this, the graphs, the ticks, the things that have stalled slightly aren't very many. The green lights are huge. We've done the most amazing job once we've started, and I wanted to commend staff for two things. One is to run with this and make it work and make it happen, I think that is fantastic. And the other is to provide us with such a comprehensive report that is easy to read and easy to understand is also fantastic. I actually feel that you've done us proud with this, and I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lemon. Is there any seconder, please? Councillor Hughes? Councillor Hughes, go for it.
Don't even have my knitting and I'm being nice to you. I'm joking. No, I'm happy to support the motion as it stands. I think there's obviously a lot of work that's gone in. I have asked for some clarification on some additional metrics and things around trees from staff, and I thank them for their responses today. There is a lot of work, there are a lot of priorities, and it's pleasing to see as a council we can make an impact. I think, you know, if you've listened to all the things in the media around climate change and federal government, you know, and are finally coming to the party to make a commitment, and the fact that we've done this and we've got staff and an elected body that are pushing forward on this, I think is really, really positive that we're leading the way from a local government level.
Councillor Hubel, do you wish to speak?
Very briefly, Your Worship. No, I just jumped into second there because it didn't seem like there were hands going forward. But yeah, look, this is wonderful stuff. Thank you to the staff for all their work. I just really proud of you know, the actions we're taking. It is real, measurable actions that we are taking, and we're heading in a great direction. So keep it up, team.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask a couple of questions. I think Dr. Ropen will probably have the answers, but just seeking his view through the CEO. On page 103, when it talked about the tonnes of organics and the tonnes of recyclables, they were down on the previous year. And that might have been a question that Councillor Hughes might have asked, I'm not too sure. But I thought they would go up. I know there was COVID and so forth, because we did see an increase in those because more people were home more often. But could he give us just an understanding of why perhaps they were a bit lower? Only slightly, I realise that.
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Dr. Phil. Thank you. Through the Chair. Tonnes of organics is highly volatile with things like rainfall. So there's a lot of things that play into the tonnes of organics that aren't to do with people's behaviour. Rainfall affects both how much things grow and the weight of things that goes in the bin. The recycling percentage change is very small, and so I wouldn't be concerned about that one at this stage. I think the key fact is that we've got a decrease in landfill, which is fantastic.
Right, I have Councillor Cornish, I think, and then it was Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you very much. It's a great scorecard. The other suggestion I have for Councillor Dawes was perhaps people were home and decided to take up composting at home with their leftover, and that might be why the organics is slightly decreased. I did have a query in relation to, I suppose, the water management. It has been an increase, and you know, some might think that might not be an improvement or an achievement, and whether or not we can actually rejig perhaps that square to better align with, you know, how much water is 103, sorry, page 103, yeah, the scorecard, whether or not that's like era water, like, so it's recycled stormwater, so that it is an actual achievement rather than, you know, some people might misread and think it's mains water and stuff like that. So I just an idea of that, because I'm assuming the more reserves we get connected to protect us from drought, the increase of water consumption we're going to have, and it would be better if we're actually increasing recycled water usage. Yeah, but great achievement, great work, and keep it up.
Councillor Henschke was next.
Oh, thank you. Question, figure 4, I should have asked this today, but the figure on landfill per capita per week, it shows, is that all landfill including hard waste? I just wanted to clarify that, please.
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Dr. Phil.
Through the chair, that's just the landfill. The hard waste is shown in a separate graph in the subsequent pages.
Oh, okay, great. So that's not including landfill, yep. Sorry, hard waste, and yep. And I can see hard waste is dropped by about 1 kilogram per person.
Do you have a subsequent question?
And my question about the hard waste, thank you, is when did we change the approach for hard waste collection from a regular timing, and does that align with the drop in 2018 going forward, where people now have to book for their hard waste and it's not a regular pickup scheduled during the year? I just wondered if that made an impact on how much hard waste we actually collect.
You write that with that, Mr. Cant, or is Dr. Ropeman doing it?
Through the Mayor, if you refer to paragraph 38, just under at-call hard waste, the first full year of the at-call hard waste was in 16-17 financial year.
Next person on the list is Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Henschke, last time we had a report, it was suggested that the hard rubbish was going to be given first dibs to the charities. They would be told about them, they could come and get what they wanted. I just wondered if this initiative has been done.
Dr. Phil?
Through the chair, we have spent some time on that project and have...
Sorry, Councillor Turnbull, can you turn your microphone off? Because the two on at the same time don't work very well.
Through the chair, we have spent some time on the project and done some preliminary planning, but we're waiting on East Waste to do their part of the project so that we can commence a trial.
Councillor Dawes is next.
Yeah, so I've got two questions, so one will follow the other. I did ask this question of Mr. Kent. I just think the council would probably like to know where the University of Adelaide study has gone as regards the green recycling. And I know the answer, but I thought it would be good for the whole council to...
It's a good idea, because I asked that a while back myself and I've been waiting for an answer, so it'd be very good to hear. Yeah, subsequent question.
Yep. Through Madam Mayor, further Dr. Phil.
Mr. Cowley.
Dr. Phil.
Okay, both of those two microphones off then, and it's all over to Mr. Camp, can you turn your mic off?
Through the chair, the University of Adelaide project is on track, and the bin audit data is being compiled, and some preliminary data will be presented to us later this year. There are social surveys attached to the project that are still ongoing, and a final report will be provided to council. I think it was around mid-2022 from memory.
Your subsequent question, Mr. Councillor Dawes. Yeah, I know, but I'm allowing the subsequent question. I allowed a subsequent there, and then a subsequent there, and then I've told you already you're next.
Yeah. On page 108, I don't think that residents will be aware of this, but the swimming centre, as regards the percentage of the greenhouse gas emissions, is 28% on my calculations. We're going to have a new heating system, a renewed heating system. Is there a estimation as to whether that will materially affect the percentage of the swimming centre's gas emissions over time?
Ms. Kennedy, apparently it's you.
Through the Mayor, I did provide a response to this question earlier today, so give me 2 seconds and I will give you an answer. Okay. At this stage, preliminary estimations indicate a greenhouse gas decrease of around 9,000 tonnes over a 20-year period through the transition to electric heating system at the pool. That is based on a number of assumptions because we haven't had the final designs done yet, but there will be a decrease. That's not a linear decrease because it also is it's contingent on council's transition to green power as well. So there are a few factors that come into play there, but over the longer term, that should see a significant decrease in that greenhouse gas emissions from the pool.
Now, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question about the Canopy Assessment. On page 124, paragraph 88, we talk about canopy cover reported and how we're assessing this. Have we used the 2016 benchmark assessment that was done by Seed Consulting for the City of Burnside? Do we use that as benchmarking to review our progress as to how we're going with our maintaining our canopy to keep the coverage up and reduce the loss that we know is happening, to keep that balance and to do the measurements accordingly?
Through the chair, that benchmark report was replaced by the initial round of LiDAR monitoring that was done a few years ago because it's a much higher quality analysis and provides a much more thorough data set across the council area that can be easily repeated in a joint project with Green Adelaide and other councils that also saves money. So all in all, a better process that gives us a better understanding of what's happening with the canopy in Burnside.
Do you have a subsequent question?
Can you tell me where that report is? Because I couldn't find it. Thanks.
Through the chair, that's attached to last year's environmental sustainability report.
Is it on our website? I couldn't find it anywhere.
Through the chair, it's an attachment to the report. The report is available in the council papers, but also available as a standalone on an environmental sustainability page. We can send you the link.
Are there any further questions or people who wish to enter the debate? Councillor Turnbull.
May I ask a subsequent question? I was really pleased to see on page 117 that the schools are being provided for this, about conducting workshops for the school administrators, etc. I noticed that it's only for early education. My question is, will the educational initiatives flow on to primary and secondary schools, and is there a time frame?
Through the chair, yes, certainly all of the schools have been engaged in the workshops, private and public schools from early years right through to the year 12s, and we have a plan to increase educational activities in all of those areas appropriate to the age groups.
Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question or enter the debate? Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I have a further question on the urban tree strategy. On page 137 of the papers, we're advised that the urban tree strategy is now redundant and we're going to move to review that. When will this be presented to council, and what metrics will be included in that in terms of canopy cover and tree coverage and the comparative rates of that in Burnside, addressing the loss that we're sustaining? So what time frame are we looking at there, please?
Through the Mayor, this work is actually happening as part of the development of the asset management plan for trees that we're currently working on internally at the stage. When that report was presented to council previously, that's when we started talking about the significant crossovers between our new strategies, the technical manuals that we have in place and the previous urban tree strategy. We're mapping everything within the previous urban tree strategy just now to make sure that there are no double crossovers when we present that back to council through the asset management plan for trees. It's expected that that will happen during the current financial year. Expecting it towards April, May. And we're expecting it to be presented in April or May of next year, but definitely within the financial year. With respect to the metrics of canopy cover, that will actually be able to be assessed better when the next LiDAR assessment coverage for our region is presented to council, and we'll be able to see the movement from the first assessment to where we are just now, and then we'll be able to set targets at that point.
Councillor Henschke, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Just a really simple question about trees on verges. When you're driving along and you see a dead tree on a verge, what happens next? Does the council administration drive around and look for dead trees and then do it, or do we have to rely on the residents to say my tree's dead, it needs replacing? I'm not sure what the asset management process is for that. Because there's a dead tree I keep driving past and I haven't reported it yet. I'm sorry, my fault maybe.
It's a combination of all of the above. So any way that we find out about a dead tree, we will go out and assess it. We'll actually make sure it is actually dead. And if it is dead, we will replace it in the next process. If you've got specific details, please feel free to forward it through to me. We'll have it assessed.
Councillor Davey.
I just have a follow-up question through you to and the CEO to Mr. Cant. In relation to the LiDAR assessment, which will be a broad metropolitan assessment, I understand, of tree canopy cover, how will this give us a good picture? Will that give us a measurement of loss, and how will that give us a good picture of what numbers of trees we should plant and what targets we should instill? Is that what's intended in that assessment?
CEO is going to manage this one.
Through Madam Mayor, in broad terms, the LiDAR assessment we're talking about will encapsulate Adelaide City plus a number of councils that have agreed to participate. City of Burnside is one, so we will achieve City of Burnside specific data. The high level data will look at the canopy cover, so the percentage I think we referred to in the report of 37% is the LiDAR canopy cover from the last assessment. So we'll achieve that high level data, which will let us know at a macro level whether we've lost canopy or achieved a canopy growth. I just need to see clarification from Dr. Phil on what other data we might achieve from that LiDAR. Thank you.
Through the Chair, there are a range of other data that are available through that assessment. It's quite exciting. If you look back at last year's report, you'll see it's broken down into public and private land, for example, so we can see if council land is growing and see what is happening on private land. There's also an exploration of whether we can identify spaces for new trees through the process. There's been some work on doing that through LiDAR techniques and a range of other new analyses. We can see different height strata of the canopy, so we can look at how trees are growing over time, both up and out, or if they're declining.
Is there anyone else who has a question? Councillor Turnbull.
I have one more question following on about the dead trees. To be a proper audit, shouldn't we actually record dead trees in here as well? But this is all audited on page 119 with exactly the amount of trees, but it doesn't mention which ones have perished. And I just wondered.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Cant. I'm fairly sure we do record them, but I'll just confirm how.
Absolutely. Through the Mayor, yes, we do, and we have those figures. I believe I've provided it to some members previously with respect to our mortality rate throughout the year. It is a very low number compared to the amount that we plant each year. That information is contained within our urban forestry software and also on Council's urban forestry interactive website. So
But
that's
not in
certainly
here.
will.
Don't put it here.
We can have a look at that.
Is there anyone else who wishes to actually enter the debate, or there's still more questions? Councillor Cornick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just think we're doing a great job here as a city, and if only the federal government could follow suit. I wonder if we should actually write to Mr. Joyce and just say, if the city of Burnside can do it, surely the Australian government could do it, and not by 2050. We're doing it by 2030.
No, they'll want to see at the time.
Councillor Piggott, your hand went shooting up there.
Could I move that the motion be put?
You certainly can move it, but Councillor Hughes can't second it because she's already spoken. Councillor Carbone, you'd like to move it, all right. Second it, I mean. Sorry. All right, so the motion is put. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Can I just make a statement before we finish? I know... well, I'd like to just say thank you. I'd like to publicly thank... All right, I'll put it in other business. Except I hope that Dr. Phil has not gone by then.
Well, you can watch it on YouTube.
Dr. Phil, before you go rushing out the door, I really want to, I know that Councillor Lemon has already commended this report. I think it's an outstanding report. And I also want to commend the videos that you've been making on carbon neutral. The feedback I'm getting from the community has been really, really strong and engaging. Not only the workshops that you've run, but also those videos have had very, very good feedback that I'm receiving everywhere I go. And I also want to just say, I want to put something in my Burnside highlights this week, but what do I highlight? I can't give them the whole report. There are so many great things in this report. So, all right, Councillor Davey. That's right.
Raise an eyebrow.
Fine. All right, now we'll get on with the meeting because I've been told I have to. All right, Councillor, I thought I was actually chair, but we'll forget about that. Councillor Piggott.
Thank you. Yeah, could I would like to just include in this recommendation, just as it runs at the moment, to receive and note the Audit Committee minutes for the meeting held on the 18th of October 2021. And as a second thing, I would like that that Council writes to Mr. David Powell, thanking him for his service to the Audit Committee. Look at that, someone's reading my mind, that's fabulous. David Powell has served 6 years on the Audit Committee. He's been chair for a good chunk of that. He's a very safe pair of hands, has spent his life in audit and risk management, and works well in a committee that's vital to an organisation like this. The change in terms of reference actually does change, I think, does allow him to reapply, so he may yet bob up in the future, but he was basically standing down because it fitted in with our terms of reference at the time of two terms. But I think it is appropriate that that council do note his work on behalf of the City of Burnside. And I think the Mayor, to alert me of that, actually, it's very much appropriate we should do that. And so I seek your support.
And seconded by Councillor Davey. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Davey?
Thank you. No, I'll endorse those comments. He's been a huge asset and help to Burnside community. I did have one, and the Audit Committee, I just did have one query about the Audit Committee. And I just wondered if the recent issue we had of the culvert works that are needed and the high-risk nature of those, have they been referred to the Audit Committee as something that that committee should keep an eye on?
Through Madam Mayor, certainly the Audit Committee are aware of them, and we discussed them in the context of how we're reporting our asset lives and the total value of assets in the accounts. So the short answer is yes, the Audit Committee are aware. In the context of the actual works, I don't feel that they need oversight, but the Audit Committee will get involved when we look at the full review of our asset lives of our infrastructure assets.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Henschke?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I endorse comments from Councillor Piggott and Councillor Davey. I was on the Audit Committee with the Mayor and when I first started my term, and we had a lot of, the Mayor drove a lot of change as well with auditing of credit cards, etc., and new policies, so that was quite transformative. So separately though, a question to the administration. Recently, the Honourable Anne Vanstone published the report on facilities maintenance in local government, and she implored that local government assess their systems and practices and strengthen relevant controls in facilities maintenance, which was rather specific, and I wondered whether that's in the Audit Committee's sites.
Through the Mayor, I might refer that to Mr. Cooper. Who's the word on?
Thank you, through the Mayor. Thank you for the question. It's actually being picked up through our procurement training. This week we've got probity training provided by the LGA to all staff. It's mandatory training, and the findings of that report are actually part of the presentation. And of course, ongoing through our internal audits, particularly around procurement, the Audit Committee will be fully across those issues too.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, are you happy for me to put the motion, or do you want to speak again, Councillor?
Could I, not really, but could I just tweak the motion that's to services to the City of Burnside? It's just a little grander and I think still appropriate, if that's okay with... I'm making a habit of changing my own motions before we get to them.
It's an iterative process.
An iterative process. No, just to the City of Burnside, I think it's the grandiose... Thank you for your service to the City of Burnside. No, well... No.
It's even worthwhile adding 6 years. It's quite a substantial amount of time.
No, get rid of Audit Committee.
Just City of Burnside.
Yeah, I think. Is that right? Yeah, sorry, Jane. Yeah, I don't know. Small thing. Thank you.
Those in favour? Against? Carried. Next is Councillor Davey, first quarter budget update.
Thank you. I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendations. And I just had a couple of queries. One of them's on page 165 at item 13.2. Increase in operating expenditure due to the finalisation of workers' comp insurance costs of $54,000. And I just wondered what that was in relation to.
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, through the Mayor. The budgeted figures for workers' compensation is based on our Q2, Q3 budget as of last year. So that's when we set the original budget. When the actual invoices come through for this year, it's usually after the budget is finalised in June and July, and there can be variations as a result of the change. And in this instance, there have been two changes to our budget assumptions. First of all, excuse me, our declared wages between the 2 years increased by 600,000, and that gets taken into the calculation. And also there was a percentage rate increase on the actual percentage charged for the insurance. It went from 4.05% to 4.2%. So those two factors resulted in the extra 54,000 over budget.
Seconded, Councillor Lemon, thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this matter? Otherwise, I'll go back to Councillor Davey. Do you wish to summarise? All right, then I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Now it's Councillor Davey again. The 11.10, Chief Executive's report, Officer's report.
Thank you. I'll move in line with the recommendation that we receive the report for September, and I just had a couple of questions, if I might. One's regarding the Regal Theatre on page 228, and that relates to progress with the discussions with Norwood, Payneham and St Peter's Council about the Marriotteville Precinct Master Plan linked to the Regal Theatre, and when those discussions were held, and when council are actually considering the item. Are they actually considering it formally as a council, or is the CEO making a decision on it?
Through Madam Mayor, if I'm going to refer that to Mr. Cant.
Through the Mayor. Yeah, we held discussions with my colleague from Norwood, Payneham St Peter's approximately 2 months ago. We have in principle interest at an officer level with respect to considering this matter, and the indication that they will be presenting the report to Council to consider as soon as possible. Initially we hoped that was going to be done in October. We have recently discussed with them, and it's more likely now that they'll be presenting that report in December. So they've got all of our information that we've provided to them, and as soon as we have some formal response from Norwood, we will advise Council.
And I did have a follow-up question if no one else has a question. And it's in relation to the CFS lease in November and the fire station upgrade. Page 233 talks about a new lease, and I was just interested to know, I can't recall, I know we had a whole lot of discussions about an upgrade to the fire station, and I'm not sure where that's at and what's happened in that regard.
Through Madam Mayor, Mr. Cant on this one.
Through the Mayor, we've actually provided an information document on this matter in September of this year. I'm more than happy to recirculate that again for your convenience. In a nutshell, the plans that were intended over the last few years didn't come to fruition from Burnside CFS and the head office. The CFS have now gone back to the drawing board, as it were. So we have returned the money that was set aside from our budgets and returned that in the most recent budget variation. And we will continue conversations with the CFS members when they then bring that back to us. The lease itself, though, now isn't contingent on that, so that will be coming to the next meeting of Council.
Right, are there any further questions? We didn't get a seconder, that's right, I'm about to say. Councillor Cornish, you happy to second? Thank you. Does anyone else wishes to speak? All right, then I will put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. You should have received your answers to the questions on notice by Councillor Davey. There are no motions on notice. Urgent or other business? Is there anyone who has any urgent or other business? Confidential items then is the final item for this evening, so I need a mover to move into confidence. And a seconder, Councillor Turnbull. All those in favour?